So we are indeed completing our series on the 4 agreements. The first 3 agreements were be impeccable with your word. Second is don't take anything personally. The third is don't make assumptions. If you've decided that you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. This is from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. At some of these we balked, it goes on to say. We thought we could find an easier, softer way. Anybody? But we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas. And the result was nil until we absolutely let go. Remember that we deal with, they say alcohol, we deal with fear. Some of you alcohol, that's cool. Fear, control, obsession with the past, insecurity, belief that we're separate from God. This is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. And may you find God now. It also goes on to say that half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. To me, this is the 4th agreement. To always do your best. If you misunderstand the agreement and you begin to think that you must muscle up some part of your ego self, your human self, if you think that what it means is that you have to get up earlier and do more push-ups and beat everybody else there and prove your presence and get that recognition, you are missing the point. The deepest spiritual teaching of always do your best must begin with a full and complete surrender. And few people, in terms of the masses of people on the planet, really get to touch and taste this kind of surrender. On the other side of this surrender, do your best comes alive in a very, very different way. Prior to this surrender, it's very often within us so ego-driven. Not that God isn't there. God's always there, so there's a mix. But within ourselves, we don't have the peace and the understanding of the abandonment that allows this presence to move through you in the most fantastic way. The 12-step program, as some of you know and as I know, I think is miraculous. I call it the second coming of the 20th century. I really do. I really do. Because one person finally surrendered completely, maybe one a couple, and very quickly a movement began. And where the day before no one was ever able to be healed from this disease. When people had the disease, they were locked up. They were put away. They were done. But this one day, this moment where a miracle occurred, this man, Bill W., woke up and he began to give his life away. And he began to help others discover and find that same sweet surrender. Today, on this planet, millions and millions and millions will be attending meetings all over the world. All over the world. Staying connected to the surrender, focusing on doing their best from this letting go. That is a story and an example of what God can do and what our best can look like. And that sweet surrender, there is no telling. There is no telling. You yourself will be amazed before you are halfway through. This is the teaching of the 4th agreement. Always do your best. Like to contrast this, as we often do here, with taking a glimpse at the Western world's idea of always doing your best, which is ego-driven. And our culture, if it's fair to say, is pretty sick with it, yes? Get that best body, get that job, climb that ladder, kick a few off the ladder on your way up. Doesn't matter if you make it to the top. There's a competition culture that does not allow everyone's best to be recognized when there's one blue ribbon. Suddenly, there's one that did their best and everybody else lost. That's what happens. I've told this story before, but it's in my mind. When I was a young boy and my brother and I were being sent to piano competition. I want to be clear, I was sent to piano competition. And I did whatever, I had to learn the pieces that I learned. And my brother was very serious about it. He was learning The Flight of the Bumblebee. And if you know that, it's an impossible song. But that was my brother. And he really went for it. So we go to the competition, and I win the stupid thing. With no intention of my own. I still don't get it, honestly, to this day, which is why that story's so fascinating to me. But I win this thing, and as we're leaving, my mother pulls me aside and says, "Put your blue ribbon away, your brother's feelings will be hurt." I know, I was like, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy that we were going to a competition on playing the piano. You know what I mean? Like when I think back to that, this is what lives in us, in our families, in our communities, in our cultures. And we must pay attention to this because this will absolutely stop you from honoring what the best is. So let's break this down a word at a time. Always. Always, again, in the human sense is always, no matter where you go, morning, noon, and night, you can never have a bad day. You can never be depressed. You can never do half. It's always. But I believe the spiritual message in always is the now moment in all ways that are present to you now, which isn't to be compared to the now that you just walked through, and the other now, and the past nows, and the past now. Always, when you bring it into the present moment, includes everything that is here, which may mean your achy knee, which may mean what you have and don't have. It brings everything together in a holistic way, and with everything included, what is your best? In all ways. Because if you really come into the present moment and in always including the full sense of self, your best may be to stay in bed that day, right? Your best may be to give you just complete self-care. Your best may be to just let someone else go this time. Or your best may be just phoning it in. Because even phoning it in helps someone else do what they need to do. When you go to the eternal now always, which is a holistic inclusion of yourself, then you have a broader perspective from which you can move and you can trust that your part, which may not have looked as magnificent as yesterday, is just as valid and beautiful and important. And guess what you get at the end of the day? Feeling good. Trusting life. Grateful for the way it went with no need to argue with it. What an invitation to a new definition of this word, yes? This is how we move spiritually in the world. We include all of it, we love all of it, and we let that God that we surrender to move us in the right directions and in the right ways, and we let go of the rest. You all know if you go to yoga class, the saying, I don't say it perfectly, but it is that idea, be on your mat today, don't compare to yesterday's practice. Your practice, you could be a superstar Olympic yoga person yesterday, and today you might spend most of your hour in child's pose. Those are the real yogis. Those are the people that actually have crossed through the invisible door and understand yoga in a brand new way. Many of us, myself included, in the Western world overlay, do the power yoga. The power yoga. And if something's hurting, just hold on. Push through it. Push through it. And that's valid too, by the way. Here's my point. There's no wrong when you're in the always present moment and when you're giving yourself to the divine. Sometimes you will have a very natural, come on, hold it, push through this one. But I think more than not, in the beginning, you'll have a lot. What if you just slow down? What if you take care of yourself first? Why? Because you are the beloved in whom God is well pleased. Because you are cherished beyond your understanding. Because to love yourself today and slow down would make God smile if there was some kind of smiling God out there in the world. That's why. The next word is do. And this is about action, obviously. So to move this spirit into action and whatever is best and right and true. But one of the things that blocks us, I believe, in our culture from doing our best is why bother? Why bother? It's too big. It won't make a ripple. Why bother doing it? Or phone it in, who cares? No one will notice. No one will notice. Anyone suffer from this ever? We all know this wonderful story. I had to bring it back. It's the story of the starfish, right? Where a man is walking along the beach. I'll tell the gist of it. Bunch of starfish all over the beach. And he starts picking one up and throwing it into the water and picks the next up and throws it into the water. And another man passes by, says something like, "Fool, what are you doing? You're never going to get all these starfish in the sea. Don't even bother." And he picks one up. He says, "Well, it will matter to this one." And he throws it into the sea. That's the right focus. Do you get the different focus? When we focus on just the next step, when we focus on just what is ours to do here, not bothering to try to figure out the enormous tapestry of the problem that your ego and your human self sees, but just do a little part, that's where we begin to come alive. Most of the world problems, I'm going to give you a little bit of percentage, but I'll stick with most. Most of the world problems you will never solve. You might solve one or two. Most of them you're not even going to get close to solving. But will you let that stop you? Will you let that stop you from doing one thing? From just making a little difference, that idea that the flapping of the wings of a butterfly is felt on the other side of the world. You see, what we teach here is that there is only one. You are inside of one dynamic consciousness, all interconnected, never disconnected. So your little movement of love will ripple throughout the whole matrix. The whole matrix. But we get stuck on the whole matrix and look at it all, and we freeze, and we contract, and we say, who am I? And today I say to you, who are you not to, right? Thank you, Marianne Williamson. Who are you not to pick up the starfish that's sitting right at your feet and give it a chance? Who are we not to just focus on the next little step and really giving ourselves to that? Isn't that fantastic? Y'all look a little frozen. Breathe. The next word is your. And I use another simple, wonderful story for this one. Perhaps you all know it. Say it with me. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, merrily. Oh, so inspired. That was your best, right? I'll take it. I'll take it. This little nursery rhyme, you probably heard it before from a pulpit. Why? Because it holds the complete mystery and answer to life. Row, row, row your boat good God, get out of everybody else's boat. Right? I know, believe me, I hear you now, I hear you. You know exactly how they should row their boat. I know. And I believe you, and I will stand with you on that. But I won't let you get in their boat. Focusing on other people's boat just takes your focus off your own. Because we don't quite know how to row ours sometimes. Because surprisingly, because we spend so much of our time boat hopping, when we land in our own, it's a little uncomfortable. It feels a little weird to just be in your own boat. And it is hard. It's hard to watch someone drive their boat off a cliff or into a tree or to flip it over. I get it. It's hard when it's your kid. It's hard when it's your sister, your brother, your friend. But that's when we have to stay in our own boat and realize that your prayers and your knowing the truth for them is the best gift you can give them. And by all means, if they ask for help and you get out and save someone, pick a boat up, get back on your own, I get it. But when you're obsessively focused on everybody else's boat, what you're really doing is just ignoring your own life. You're ignoring the own little pain pocket inside of you that may need some special love. Not may, I dropped the may, that needs some special love and attention. When we stay in our own boat, that's where you begin to experience God. You see, you can't experience God boat hopping. You can't. You'll never really, you feel like the rescuer. Your ego will feel good and you'll think, I made a difference. But you won't know the deep connection of self that your spirituality is wanting for you. So row, row, row your boat. How? Gently. Gently. This nursery rhyme holds no competition inside of it. It didn't say row, row, row your boat quickly and get to the finish line first. Gently. Why gently? Why? Because there is a current of life that is carrying you. And if you row too hard, you will begin to fight the very current of life that knows where you're to go. Surrender. The current of life flowing downstream, it will carry you. And you have your oars. Why? To keep yourself in bound, to gently be a part of the motion of your life. But if gently moves to aggressively, take a breath, y'all control freaks. When gently moves to aggressively, you are then fighting with the current. And the current will never fight back, but it's going to make things harder. Trusting life at the deep level, rowing your boat gently downstream. Merrily, merrily, merrily. Happy, be happy, be happy. Life is but a dream. That's what I teach every Sunday. I try to explain this to you in 1,000 different ways. You're dreaming yourself separate from God, the whole while literally in the middle of the kingdom of heaven. This life that you're here, this boat that you're on, it's a dream. It's a dream, and enjoy the dream and be a part of the dream. Taste the dream. Hang baubles, bangles, and beads on it. I don't care. But don't make it who you are. It's a blip. It's a blip. And I believe, and I literally see in my head like a string. You're the string, and all the pearls along that string are all the blips of lifetimes you've had. So don't take this pearl too seriously, because it's of a whole strand of your being. Yes? Yes. Finally, best. Always do your best, which again is never the same. It's never the same moment to moment. So suddenly when you step off the cultural rules and ideas of competition, best doesn't have one location. Best begins to become fluid. And it can move, and it adjusts itself according to, as I spoke earlier, all of who you are. So the best is not a one North Star destination. The best is a moving thing that is always with you and just invites whatever that means for you in the moment. And my guess is for all of us, it will bring out something better. If we really pay attention, we will be called to go on the edge and tell our truth a little more. We will be called to stretch and not watch another rerun and maybe go help a friend. We will find ourselves in the stretching area of ourselves. So the best is not a negative thing when it's actually just your own personal experience of it. It does pull you. It does expand you, and we want that. You're an infinite consciousness. You don't want to know yourself as this much of it when you're no borders of it. So the best pulls us and stretches us. There's an Eastern story about an eager young man who traveled many, many miles to seek out a spiritual teacher who he had been told, both holy and wise. And he traveled for days and days and months and miles and miles and miles. And he finally found where this holy spiritual teacher was. And he went there early in the morning and he found the teacher in the river. And he went out to the river to meet him. And the holy teacher said, "How can I help you?" And he said, "How do I know God? How do I find God?" And the teacher took him by the neck and shoved his head underwater and held it there until the guy was deathly afraid he was going to die, until his last breath, and pulled him out. And the guy crawled to the banks, just gasping for breath, and I'm sure said something like, "WTF," right? Come on. He said, "What are you doing?" And the spiritual man says, "When you were underwater, what was your thought? What were you thinking?" "I wanted air. That's all I wanted was air." When you seek for God that way, you will find God. That's the last frontier. And it's mine too, friends. The last frontier, if we're going to shine our always do your best in any direction, I invite us to really, all of us, shine it in the direction of seek first the kingdom of heaven, the consciousness of oneness, the reality of love, whichever word you use. I like the word God because that works for me. But whatever it is that you know yourself as, that amazing spiritual being, seek that first, and as the verse goes, all these things will be added. So over and over and over, our invitation is to stop trying to do our best out there in the world and start doing our best lining up with God. Start doing our best to the best of our ability to do our spiritual practices. Make focusing your best on forgiveness and impeccability with your word and giving up these assumptions and not caring what other people think of you. Do your best there, and you will have your own awakening. And you've had many awakenings. You can't be in this room if you haven't. You have. But trust me, there's more. There's more. And that's the game that we're about here at Unity Naples. So as we bring to an end the 4 agreements, which has been a fantastic 4 weeks, has it not? I think so. Absolutely. I can skip over that one. Go to the next one. That's good. Doing your best means enjoying the ride. All 4 of these agreements bring us to just simply remember again, life is but a dream, that when we do our part in revealing the presence of love, God, joy, peace, power, whatever is being sought through you to be given, when we do that, then we get to enjoy the ride. Yes? And so it is. Amen. Amen. All right, let's take a breath and let's do some prayer. I invite our prayer chaplains and ministers to stand if you would feel comfortable doing that today. Welcome my wonderful friend Denise Schubert, who was here last summer, if you guys remember her. So good. We were at Agape together out in California. We were in class together. Happy to have her here. These are your prayer chaplains. I tell you every Sunday, these are the people that have spent time studying and learning prayer and making God the revelation of their lives so that whatever's going on for you, no judgment, no shame, no blame, you can come and sit with them and they will speak the truth for you. So please know that I stand on their shoulders as we move into prayer. Taking a deep breath together. And I begin with the word God, because God is but a word that points to the infinite power and presence of perfect, perfect, perfect life. And that life is all that there is. It's all that's happening. Anything that appears other is no thing, because it is not of this presence and power. One life, one light, infinite, eternal, eternal, eternal. It is in the back of all universes beyond universes, more, way more than the human eye can see or the human mind can comprehend. God is, period. And I know that I am one with this presence. I know that the life of God, the love of God, the power of God, the grace of God is all that I am, because I am formed and fashioned in the image and the likeness of this magnificence. And as it's true for me, I know it's true for every one of us here. So this prayer is establishing a remembering, a consciousness of the truth of our being. Breathe, breathe. Inside yourself, say, I am that, I am that, I am that. And as this is the foundation upon which his prayer flows, I know for all of us today, there's been a new revelation of what it means to always do your best. And I give thanks to the entire universe that has brought this expansive, loving, kind, inspiring message to each one of us in the right and perfect way. And I know for all of us, with no comparison to the past, no worry for the future, there is a new idea established in this present moment, and I accept it. I accept it now. For each and every one of us. And each and every one of us has an individual blueprint of it, designed perfectly for each of us. Our best is encoded within us, and I bless it, and I bring it forth. Our best flows through our veins. Our best is in every breath, and our best is in our surrender. Our surrender. So this prayer cuts the cords to obsessing about global concerns that we can never do anything about. This prayer connects us to where we are as we are in the present moment and opens us up to do our part and to do it to the best of our ability. And to know that every time we fall down, forgiveness sets us free, we get back up. There is no universe keeping score. Only love, only love. So I'm so grateful for the fulfillment of this prayer, for the establishment of a new consciousness, and for the willingness to let this new consciousness not just sit here on Sunday morning, but it goes before us, and it stays alive within us, and it informs us throughout the entire week. For this I give thanks, I truly do. We let it be, this is done, and so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.